Welcome. This time I'll be looking at my Amiga 1200. This was an upgrade from my Amiga 500. I used this from early 1990s to probably early 2000s. It was the first computer I used to get on the internet with. First computer I used CD-ROMs on. I had a printer on it at one point. Made a couple of modifications to it, which we'll see as we go through the video. But yeah, I'd like to kind of get it back as my main kind of Amiga computer. I mean, currently I'm using an Amiga Vampire V4 standalone system, but you know, this is the one I've got nostalgia for. This was the one I kind of used the most. As you can see, the keys are all yellowed and everything. Could retro bright it, but to be honest, I kind of like it the way it is. Just shows it's had a bit of a life. It hasn't been living in a box since the day it was produced. So yeah, really today, rather than being a repair video, it's going to be more more kind of looking to see whether this thing still works, and if it doesn't, what needs doing to it to get it back to full working order. So without further ado, let's crack on with the video. Okay, in today's video, I'm just having a look at my Amiga 1200. As you can see, it's a little bit yellowed. Again, back in the day, I've opened this up quite a few times. As you can see, I've got a memory add-on with a maths coprocessor. Again, I'm not quite sure how much memory it was. I can't remember. It was either 1 meg or 2 megs of memory I got, because when I bought it, it was quite expensive. So that's the card. It's a Magnum 1200. That's a little maths coprocessor for it. So now I'm just going to have a look. Have a look inside the computer itself, just see what kind of state it's in before I put any power on it. Now I remember also back in '96 I put a hard drive in there, but at that time a 2.5 inch hard drive was quite expensive, so you could go for a 3.5 inch hard drive, which obviously the 1200 case isn't designed to take. And as you can see, there it is. So all they've done for it, they've literally just tapped off the floppy power to power the hard drive as well. So just taking it apart now, just to have a better look at everything. That's the hard drive itself. As you can see, that little white wire is basically an earthing wire to earth it to the printed circuit board. And it's just literally wrapped a couple of times around the screw. So that bit of cardboard on the bottom of the hard drive is what they actually recommended to do to obviously stop it shorting out onto the motherboard itself. This wasn't something, this was a kit you could buy, and yeah, as you can see, it's way too big for this case. Caused the case to bulge up a little bit and the keyboard to bulge up a little bit as well, so I don't think that's going to go back in even if it is working, but I'll test it in a bit and see if it does actually work. So right now I'm just clearing everything out of the way, taking some pictures of everything as well before I dismantle it all. Taking the floppy disk drive out, so it's got 2 screws on the outside of the case, 1 screw on the inside of the case, so that's out nicely. Just removing that little earth wire. And now to get this out of its casing, out of the shielding. So what I realised, that it's not actually holding into anything, but it is just holding the printed circuit board onto the bottom shielding. So I thought, just to make it a little bit easier on myself, I'd just remove the whole thing. I can easily get to these little screws at the back to unscrew the PCB from that. Just checking over the capacitors and everything in there. Everything looks fairly good. A little bit dusty, but nothing looks like it's leaking. No signs of damage on the board. The quite handy thing with the 1200 was it doesn't have that built-in battery, so unless your capacitors are leaking, then that's really the only issue you're going to get with it. And again, it's obviously recommended to replace the capacitors, but right now I just want to see if I get anything out of it with its existing capacitors. So ready to power on. Yeah, absolutely nothing. So the socket that it plugs into, these are the voltages I should be seeing on the various pins. So that's the next thing now, is just to test that, see what we got. So just going between ground, getting very low voltages. But bearing in mind I should be seeing things like 12 volts and 5 volts and minus 12 volts. So again, first things first is just to actually check the power itself, the power supply unit, see what I've got there. Obviously unplugged it just to make sure. First thing, first check to see whether that fuse is blown. Because again, that's a very easy one to potentially have a problem if the power supply was dropped or anything. Fuse is looking good. Now just testing the switch, see if I'm getting my 230 volts in, which I am. Now just to unscrew it and see if I'm getting anything off the board itself. See if I'm getting any voltages there, because again it could be a damage to the cable, might be the power supply itself is working fine. And you can see on the board there what voltages I should be expecting. And the easiest way I found to test this, rather than trying to get in on the top, is to go on the bottom of the board and just test what I'm getting. So again, 2.8 volts, 2.7 volts. You get about 2.3 volts as well. So right now I'm pretty sure my power supply is the issue. Luckily I've got an Amiga 500, so just borrowed the power supply from that, as you can see just under my arm there. So I'm going to give it another try with that power supply and see what we get now. See if we get any signs of life from it. So when I'm going to put this case back together again, I realised I haven't slotted the keyboard into the bottom part of the case, hence the reason why it's bulging at the front. So I just got to loosen everything off and then just quickly slip that keyboard there. You can see that horrible space there at the front. So because I'm not under them plastic clips, that's what's causing the issue there. Again, when I initially did it, I assumed it might have just been the case was slightly deformed because of that 3.5-inch hard drive that was in there, but that was it. So we're all good to go. Let's give it a test. Come on, baby. Oh, he's just teasing me now. Something going on. Yes. Again, it's been a long time since I've turned this on, so I wasn't sure how long it was going to take. I was surprised it is quite a long time before you get to this screen. Just got to try a floppy disk in it and see what I've got, see if the floppy disk drive's working. That's not a good sign, but again, these disks are quite old as well. They're sort of mid to late 90s, a lot of these disks, and some of them are obviously earlier than that. Some of them are from my Amiga 500. Now, it could be every single disc here is corrupted in some way, but it's very unlikely unless they were stored badly, and all these discs have been stored quite well, so I was surprised I'll not have a problem there. Thought just to see if I've got anything, let me just try the hard drive, see if the hard drive's showing any signs of life. So just reconnecting that. So again, the reason I took everything out to start with on this computer is just to get it back to the bare basics, see if the board itself is working, and then obviously add in the bits as we go. If I just turn it on with everything in there, and one particular component is faulty, then you could assume it's the board, recap it, do whatever, and you've still got an issue. So as you can see, the hard drive light's on there, but doesn't look like it's doing very much. And listening to the drive itself, just giving it a little tap just to see if it's still no signs of life on this at all. It's I think it's a dead drive basically. If I try and switch it on again, see, I'm getting the yellow light saying there's a hard drive activity, but you physically cannot hear that hard drive spinning. So disconnected again. I'm going to have a look at the floppy disk drive just to see if I can get anything to load on this. Again, because it's been sitting so long, has something seized on it, things not turning, belt snap, motor stop working, stuff like that. So first thing is just removing this outer shielding of the disk drive unit, which just literally clips over, so you've got to gently try and get under it with a screwdriver just to unclip it. And then once it's unclipped, it comes away fairly nicely. Okay, that is just a little earth tag that would have gone to the top shielding if it hadn't been removed because of the 3.5 inch hard drive installation. So again, just remove that, remove the top of it. Now I can see in the actual floppy drive itself, so now I can see what it's doing when I actually put a disk in. So that bit there is not moving at all, is it? So again, doesn't seem to really be doing much. So I'm just going to try and move the head along just to see if it zeroes itself again. So just moving the head forward, see what I get. So it is actually moving, it is returning to the right position. Again, just checking disk is actually spinning, and when you look on the top of the disk you can see it. So again, just using some head cleaner here, just to try and clean it up a little bit, just to see if that's causing the issue. That again, where there's a lot of dust and stuff got in it over the years, see if any of that settled on the actual head itself. This one. Trying another disc. Yeah, Yeah, so far, not much luck with that one. Close up with the actual heads themselves. They look fairly good, they look fairly clean. Luckily I do have a Amiga 600 as well, which was actually saved from the local dump several years back, and it works. But again, at this point, when this was saved, this sort of technology, nobody really wanted it anymore, so yeah, I was lucky to kind of retrieve it. But I'm going to try the disk drive from this one, which I know is a good working disk drive, and also try the disk drive that isn't working in this, just to see, because again, I'm assuming it's a disk drive. It might potentially be one of the cables is damaged, so it's not working correctly because of that. So you can see on the 600 that cable's a lot longer. I'm just trying this. So let's put a disc in. And you can see the disc is spinning, but yeah, just getting nothing from it. So now I'm trying the Amiga 600 disc with my other leads. So again, these are the leads from the 1200, just to check the leads themselves, see whether I'm getting any activity using the good working disk drive. Yep, that's reading. That's working fine. So now the next thing, I just want to test this board out. That doesn't look good. So again, just got a big yellow screen. Thought it might be the actual battery and the real-time clock. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't need it. But again, I thought I'd just replace the battery. Also, another thing, when you're handling lithiums, never handle them like this. Don't touch the top and the bottom. You will shorten the life of them greatly. Hold them from the edge so you don't make a connection. The amount of people that do just hold both sides of them, and basically you're just shortening it out with your body. Just reinserting this card again, see if I'm getting any signs of life from it. So that's in there. Keyboard back on. See what we got. Completely blank screen. I'm not getting the yellow thing now, but then I'm not getting my boot screen either. Yeah, so that's it. As I say, this isn't really a repair video. It's more a kind of initial assessment video of what does need repairing. So coming up in future videos, we'll have a look at that power supply, see if anything can be done with that disk drive, and also see if anything can be done with that memory stroke accelerator board. Hopefully it can. Hopefully it can be repaired. I'll leave you with Elite 2 playing on a completely stock Amiga 1200, and watch for the wicked slowdown when there's too much stuff on the screen. I'll see you next time.